my lordy lord. It is a late one. We're doing a late show. There's a late show happening tonight for good reason. It's 11 o'clock. It's the 11th hour. It hasn't struck midnight yet, because once it strikes midnight, the impact of the sentiment, whatever, Jeff, whatever. The impact of the statement is slightly cheapened when the midnight hour crosses over and we are no longer on the meaningful anniversary. Today is a meaningful anniversary for me, because today, it was 10 years ago today that I dove headfirst into feature-length narrative filmmaking. Up to that point, I had made feature films, but they were live concert films that never came out, documentary projects that never came out. Nothing ever came out. And in August 14th, 2014 was the very first production. I hadn't even cast my lead yet. And I was like, we were just like, okay, it's going to get cold soon. It's time to start shooting. We have a lot of outdoor scenes, got to get them shot before winter sets in. There was such a sense of urgency back then. The sense of urgency would fall off very quickly as the years pass, especially as the years pass. You know what I mean? With each film, that film took 18 months, but the next film took, close to 2.5 years. All of that to say that this is my official, proclamation announcement that I have started work on a third feature-length narrative film. In between Gouge Away and what I just worked on, I did a documentary about the making of the last movie. A very gonzo documentary. If you're familiar with what gonzo is, apart from the weirdo from the Muppets, you may appreciate it. If you like American movie, you very much might like Koyashi Gonzo, Blood Visions, and Chaos Magic. So whatever. So putting that aside for a moment to say that, yeah. So basically for the last 7 days, this was 10 days ago, but for 7 days straight, I shot 65 pages of a brand new narrative feature-length script. Why do I keep saying narrative? Because it's a different, documentaries and making documentaries is a whole different ball of wax from making narrative films. It's such a different animal, man. I can't even begin to, I could sit down and itemize why and how. I would say though, I think it's easier to shoot documentary, especially if you're doing it run and gun. If you're trying to make a feature that has any kind of polish, even if it's the knowest of no budgets, the lowest of low budgets, the microest of micro budgets, you're still trying to put some kind of polish on it so that it feels maybe bigger than what it really is. And, let me tell you, that's not easy. That's not an easy thing to do. You can cheat, just shoot everything in black and white. That really helps significantly, greatly, and whatnot. That's what I've done twice now, I guess. Although this time around we shot in color. I shot in color, but it's going to be desaturated to black and white, which is not what we did on the first movie. We were really crazy. We shot in camera monochrome profile. So it's like there was no color. We lit for black and white because we were shooting in black and white. But look, I'm not going to be flying all willy-nilly off the cuff like I normally do. I have written a missive, a very in-depth missive about my experience. It kind of goes back and forth. Like many things here, it's incredibly self-indulgent. So if you'd rather listen to me talk about the Misfits or listen to some about some, miscellaneous factoids, I suggest that you go watch a rerun. But this is the stuff that's most important to me. Even it's more important than the YouTube. It's more important than anything. This is like what I consider this to be my life's work, I guess. This is the stuff that I bleed for this stuff in the same way that I would bleed for my children. I bleed for this stuff. These movies are semblances of children. They come from me. They're personal. They mean something. I love them no matter what, unconditional love, no matter what imperfections they might have. I'm very pleased with what we've shot thus far, though. Let me dive in here because I'm just going to keep going on and on. Let's dive in, shall we? So this is called, and I want to apologize. This is from my website. I have a website, Frumess.com, and I have a blog called the blog. I have a blog, and many years ago, sticker mule, screw sticker mule, right? Wow. I really need to get rid of these ads because we believe in riotstickers.com. People, we'll do the ad a little bit later in the programming. Riotstickers.com, not sticker mule, riot stickers. Got to get rid of that on the website. That's through Google. Man, I don't know what I was thinking putting up these friggin' ads. I was like, yeah, I'll make a couple of pennies doing that. Like the worst idea ever. The worst of worst ideas. I regret it thoroughly. It is what it is. I did what I did, and that's all that I did. Here, no, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I'll say, no, this is terrible. I'm trying to find a better feed here, better way. I hate that. We'll just stick with this. Okay, sorry. All right, enough with that. Let's go. All right, so note, the date of this post, August 14th, 2024, is the 10-year anniversary of my first production day on my first feature film. I am floored to still be out here in the trenches a decade later doing one of the things that I love most. Onward. So this is a blog post. I've written a bunch of blog posts. I write them once in a blue moon. It's funny how often we go live here on the channel, but once in a blue moon, I sit down and I try and write something out. This is called My Shadow is Lovely, Dark, and Deep, writing and directing a third no-budget indie feature film. And as you can see here, we have a poem. Is it going to let me click on the poem? No, that sucks. And it's the tail end of Robert Frost's very famous, iconic poem. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. I dream, I think, I want, I work. Sometimes it materializes. It was September 13th, 2022, when I began to write in a brand new marble notebook. I had been post-expiration of unemployment benefits for some time, and I was still dangerously unemployed. Besides some freelance editing and substitute teaching gigs, the only money coming in was from YouTube and Patreon. The path ahead was depressingly opaque and left me muddled and discouraged. This is just after coming off the intoxicating validation of finishing a second feature-length narrative film and having its premiere at my all-time favorite movie-going venue, the Alamo Drafthouse, as part of the Genre Blast Film Festival. And you can see that right here. I'm very proud of this. I kind of want to get it framed. It doesn't let you click on the thing to like make the picture bigger. I gotta fix that in the thing because that's annoying. I want to be able to see the pictures. Yeah, I mean, that was just such a feather in the cap, though. And, this is the tail end. This is the conclusion of that documentary I was talking about, Koyashi Gonzo, Blood Visions and Chaos Magic. So what I'm talking about right now is kind of like, this is the postscript. This is the epilogue. This is basically the epilogue. You see a little bit of that at the end of the movie. Zenith says, it's literally possible to film a movie on an iPhone with a filter in this day and age. It's self-reflective of our contemporary view of the world. Yeah, you're not wrong, but it's also, man, try making a feature-length film. Just try making a feature-length film on anything, whether it's a potato, an iPhone, or a Blackmagic cinema camera. It's not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do. We had won, so we had won the festival's Independent Spirit Award, the Genre Blast Forever Award. It was a victory and a validation of the blood, sweat, and tears. The summit of this mountain, metaphorical mountain, of course, was breathtaking. And now it was time to descend into another valley of uncertainty, one with woods both dark and deep, but they did not feel particularly lovely. That was a very cringe line. I'm sorry. A very on the nose, very cringe, yada, yada, yada. What can I say? I needed a job, the permanent lifeline kind. What do I mean when I say permanent lifeline kind? You know, a job that maybe does not necessarily reflect what you do or who you are, but something that brings you money. That's the lifeline. You need that in order to make money, right? And the lifeline kind that would not only afford me to contribute and support my family, but also allow me to replenish my coffers in the continuation of artistic pursuits. Because let me tell you, I was tapped out after making Gouge Away, just utterly tapped out. Such a strange paradox. We talked a little bit about this in the money versus does money equate to happiness podcast that we did recently. I'm starting to believe that more and more in this society we live in, money may not buy happiness, but it buys freedom. And a byproduct of freedom is happiness. So, you know, paradoxically, it is money that will lead to happiness through the narrow bridge of freedom, right? Thank God for YouTube and Patreon money allowing further wiggle room. And like always, it's too much to stop and not enough to do full time. That's right. I make too much money on YouTube to stop doing it, and I make not enough money to do it full time all the time. The eternal struggle of many of us out there looking to make art. That's the reality. Don't make enough to do it full time, but I make too much to stop. But hey, listen, it's paying some bills at this time. The YouTube and Patreon money is paying for the internet, and it's paying for our cell phones. And that felt pretty good. It felt pretty good to be talking on the internet and making videos for people on the internet. And that was translating to passive, predictable revenue every month. So even though I was dangerously broke, and even though I was terminally unemployed, the fact that I was able to do that, you know, that was a kind of a self-esteem booster, because I did not feel this photo here represents how I kind of felt inside of my heart at that time. I was triumphant because I had just come off this high, but it was like, now what? Like, now what? That, like, you know, that's the problem with happy endings. When a happily ever after is not really a happily ever after. You know why? Not unless, I guess, if it's the end of your life, because life goes on, man. Life moves on. What's the next thing? If life doesn't move on, then you're dead, you know? So it's like, what's the next thing? And that was just, like I said, it was the future felt opaque. I couldn't see, didn't know what, you know, still what now, where to go from here. Fall, I got to change that. Fall was nipping at the heels of summer as it was getting colder and darker, and I began to dream. And that's the key takeaway here, to never stop dreaming. I began to dream. What was I dreaming about? Where do these dreams come from? I do not know, but I want to believe that they come from a divine place of creativity. And then they channel down into my mind and my heart. The dream was of another world. So I was dreaming about another world. That's what I was dreaming about. And at this very sort of directionless time, you know, like at this time where there was no prospect, there was no nothing. I was like, okay, I got a feature film. I'm too broke to even attempt to distribute it. I can't even press it up. I can't even buy the computer that I need to author the Blu-ray, right? It's like, what the hell am I going to do? I don't know. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dream. It's literally what I did. That's all I could do was dream and, drive my daughter to and from no, she was in preschool. So anyway, the dream that I was dreaming of was of another world. It was not a terribly original or unique. It was built on top of another world. So the world that I was dreaming of, another world that was built on top of another world. And it was one that I did not create. David Lynch, the director David Lynch, the great David Lynch, he had thought this place up. It is where he set the film Eraserhead. If his story takes place in the city, the world that I imagine, where my story takes place, that takes place in the suburbs, or rather an approximation of such suburbs. There was music too, and this was the music. This is the music that was the soundtrack of this dreaming that I was doing. It was appropriate that it was called Sandman, right? That was perfect. The original doo-wop Spaceman, this whole album really, by this band called Trudy and the Romance. Sandman by Trudy and the Romance, a contemporary dream-soaked doo-wop album, laid a soundtrack to surf on top of. A new coffee house in downtown White Plains called the Pamplemousse Project had opened up, where coffee flowed like water. That's the dumbest thing I've ever written. Sorry. A cozy, warm feeling place with bright energy was the perfect third place. You know what a third place is? I should put a link to what a third place is. Third place is like a place that's not home and it's not work. It was the perfect third place to express whatever was percolating in my head. The kernel of the idea wasn't new. It was Pet Sematary meets Little Shop of Horrors with a bit of Reanimator thrown in. A familiar Frankensteinian premise was a well-worn tread set in that. Even my writing is terrible right now. Okay. A familiar Frankensteinian premise was a well-worn trend set in that David Lynchian world I mentioned before. I have to rewrite that. That doesn't roll off the tongue. Here's my marble notebook. It's right here. You can see a picture of it. But I needed a canvas. I needed something that I could use to bring the intangible into the physical world. In this case, it was a marbled notebook journal. Whenever I could, I went down to that coffee shop and I dreamed all over its blank pages. In the absence of a job, I turned dreaming and thinking in this notebook into its own job while I continued to look for a pair of golden handcuffs to shackle to. All right, so this notion of golden handcuffs is the idea that you're trapped in a job that perhaps you don't want to be trapped in, or may not be the most comfortable thing to be trapped in, but it is comfortable. It is actually comfortable in the sense that you're getting a steady paycheck and you have benefits and perks, and your basic human needs are met because you're earning enough money to meet them. And I was like, damn, I need some of these golden handcuffs right now, because it was funny how I was trying to escape from them and secretly wished to be fired from my previous job, which I eventually was. But it's just like the golden handcuffs, man. It's like this weird paradox. It's a weird paradox. So I turned dreaming and thinking into its own job. It's amazing how there are some people who do get paid to dream and think, right? Like, that's pretty cool. There's a beautiful quality to dreams, I find. They don't require any sort of responsibility initially. They represent a different kind of freedom in comparison to the freedom that having money brings. There's a purity to it in the sense that there's no financial prerequisite. One need only to have a mind and be daring enough to imagine. So I'm filling this notebook up day by day, page by page. And while there is no definitive goal, the ultimate surmisation is that someday this could be my third narrative feature film, My Shadow. And as you can see here are all the sketches that I was doing in my book as I was dreaming, right? I was just dreaming away coming up with ideas. I had no idea if I would ever be able to execute any of these ideas. What is my shadow about? The synopsis follows Robert, a painter who struggles with the sudden demise and grisly resurrection of his best friend, a rabbit named Shadow. Now all Robert wants to do is take the girl next door, Sydney Kidney, to the Jovial Halloween Ball and have a good time. But it's hard to have fun when your best friend aspires to be a rock and roll singer and won't stop eating the people that you know. The story is named after the song My Shadow by Jay Reatard, and the monster, Shadow, this bunny rabbit monster, is inspired by, designed around No Bunny, one of my favorite musicians who was disgraced musicians, who canceled himself after terrible truths came to light, which still leave me unpacking my feelings about and whatnot. But that's another story for another day. So the ultimate surmisation is that someday this could be my third narrative film, My Shadow. But how or when? You know, I mean, that's the thing about all this stuff. It's really, really, really sticky. It's sticky. And you know what else is sticky? Do you know what else is sticky? Riot stickers. That's right. Riot Stickers is the sponsor of the Frumess channel. You can get 200 stickers, 200 die cut stickers for $69. Link is down in the description. Go to riotstickers.com/Frumess. That's FRUMESS. And take advantage of this deal. What is a die cut sticker? It's made with a computer guided scalpel. Okay. And you can have any shape you want. If you want a shape of a demonic half clone bunny rabbit monster that eats people, you can do that. Just go to riotstickers.com/Frumess. That's FRUMESS. 200 die cut stickers for $69. Not going to find a better deal. Let's listen to the little Riot Stickers theme song by the guy from Less Than Jake, and we will be right back to read more about what happened next in this story that is my life.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too, posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on shirts, we can print on hats, we can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality, quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support, great customer service, and so much more. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
And that is a promise. Okay, let's keep reading the story. What happens next? How is this going to happen? When is it going to happen? How is this going to manifest? Because that's ultimately the next step of dreaming, right? If you go back to the top here, I dream, I think, I want, I work. How do we manifest? How do we work to manifest these dreams? Or how did I work to manifest these dreams? How am I going to make this happen? It doesn't matter. I don't need to know at the moment. I just need to show up to that coffee shop and I need to write. And I need to pretend that that's my job. You know, that's the thing. I have to pretend that that is my job and just go and just do and be and whatnot. Because at this point in time, as I said, I'm broke as a joke. I couldn't afford to make this potential movie, nor did I have the energy to. But The Notebook was a certain form of that movie. So it's like the idea. Let me, I have it right here. Let me pull it out real quick. Might as well have a little prop here. So it's like, this is The Notebook. It's like The Notebook is like a version of the movie. This is the movie. The movie is here. And somehow, like in this, like some sort of alchemy needs to occur where where the pages can be, further manifested. Is that possible somehow? So it's like I couldn't afford to make this potential movie, nor did I have the energy to. I was exhausted. I had just come off of, finishing Gouge Away. So I didn't have the energy to, but the Notebook was a certain form of that movie. Dreams, they were dreams. This was dreams in a tangible form. It was a promise. It was a promise of hope. That's what it was. The job thing, being unemployed, that was killing me. Slowly but surely, that was killing me. It was not the notion that I needed a 9-to-5 job. The willingness was there. Like I was ready. I was like, look, I need to do this for my family first and foremost, but like I need to get back out there. I need to dial in, and I need a job, man. But it was impossible to find anything that met the threshold of standards that I wanted for myself as well as my family. I had slaved in restaurants for years before deciding that it was time to make a change and transition into desktop office culture. I mean, that was the thing. I like never saw my son. Like I never friggin' saw my son on the weekends because it's like, I'm in the restaurant 24/7, and then my daughter came along, and it's just like, I want to work for the weekend. I want to buy in. I want to buy into working for the weekend. Like how it pains me to say that, but it's true. And soon I learned that like the weekend is this beautiful golden thing that like I don't want to ever give up. I love the weekend. The weekend is the greatest thing ever, but it's also a symptom of this terrible 9-to-5 affliction that was brought upon. I'm not going to get political here, historically political, but the point is that I was willing to do that. But I wanted to do it in a way where, if I'm going to surrender myself to this way of life that I can't stand, then it had to be on better terms. It had to be on better terms. And while I was prepared to return to hospitality if there was absolutely no other option, I was afforded the break fall. I had a 2-income household. I was in a 2-income household, which brought time to seek and search along with it. So I was able to, in addition to I had unemployment, I had a little break fall. I was able to like not, go back to restaurants so quickly. But, at the end of the day, that time was running out and there was no prospect or lead, so that was scary. That was really scary. It was treading water in the ocean, and my legs were giving out with a feeling of impending dread creeping up my spine. Along with dread, there was a stubbornness that would not allow me to fold and give up. Perhaps it was the Kuyashi that I had come to know. That more on that. Go read the blog Kuyashi Gonzo to learn more about that. I'm not going to go into all that. It's this idea of like never giving up. It had come down to the resounding truth that if I was going to willingly wear a pair of golden handcuffs for years to come, they had to live up to their name of being golden and therefore be comfortable as well. You know what I mean? Like it had to be something that I could truly surrender myself to. At least that's how I felt about it at the time. A few weeks passed along with another demoralizing interview audition. What is an interview audition? So there's this thing where you do you go to a job interview. Maybe you do a great job. They like your resume. And then what they do, and I understand why they do it, but it is really demeaning and demoralizing. And frankly, it's generally a waste of time. They want you to do dummy work for free. Sometimes they're willing to pay you just a little bit, but generally not. And in some cases, you are creating intellectual property that they then might exploit and use. It's a real like sticky kind of situation. These grueling interview auditions were carrots dangled at the end of a string and straight into a hoop of fire. They usually involved a great investment of time and energy where you are in some cases doing real work that they could potentially use and benefit from. Sometimes the review process of these auditions was nothing more than going through the motions. because they had already picked their candidate. And it was easy to tell because the interviewer, recruitment officer, or whatever they are, wasn't even listening or asking you to skip over sections of work that I had spent hours and hours on for some ungiven reason. Those effing bastages. And here below, this is a screenshot. I'm not going to, oh crap, you can't even see what I'm looking at. Here's a screenshot that I took, and I put it in here because I thought it was really apropos to what I'm discussing here. This was from one of those jobs that had me do the auditions. This woman initially reached out to me on June 20th, 2022, asking me to do an interview that she never showed up for. Her right-hand man did. And he then invited me to do all this dummy work, which included a lot of market research. It was a lot of labor, man. It was a lot of friggin' labor. She never showed up to the second interview. I got passed over. The guy was very inappropriate in the job interview as well. The bottom line to all this is that over a year later, she reaches out to me. 6 or 7 months later, she reaches out to me. This is after I'm already employed at the job that I have now. She reaches out to me and asks me if I would hire her, if I would be her client. So she went from reaching out to me to ask me to be her employee to wanting me to be her client. She wanted me to pay her to do work for me. And it was delicious. And of course I outlined, I was like, I said something along the lines of, thank you for getting in touch, though it doesn't seem you remember me. And it's just one of those kind of emails. But why would you? You never showed up to any of the interviews I had for the group manager position you had posted on LinkedIn. And I outlined everything that had happened. And she gave me a non-admission of guilt, to which I responded, I accept your apology, even though she wasn't apologizing. And that was it. I've always loved the movie Castaway. It's the sort of syrupy Hollywood feel-good picture bred for Oscars, as sentimental as a Hallmark greeting card message for a homogenized America. But the concept still manages to cut deep. Tom Hanks's character, Chuck Nolan, talks about his failed attempts to end his own life after 4-ish years on the island that he's marooned on in Castaway. Here's the quote. Because I was never going to get off that island. I was going to die there totally alone. I was going to get sick or get injured or something. The only choice I had, the only thing I could control was when and how and where it was going to happen. So I made a rope and I went up to the summit to, do myself in. I had to test it, of course, you know me, the weight of the log snapped the limb of the tree. So I couldn't even end myself in the way that I wanted to. I had power over nothing. And that's when this feeling came over me like a warm blanket. I knew somehow. So, that's the key takeaway here, that we have power over nothing, and having this feeling that somehow I had to stay alive. Somehow I had to keep breathing, even though there was no reason to hope. And all my logic said that I would never see this place again. So that's what I did. I stayed alive. I kept breathing. And one day, this line sends shivers up my spine, gives me goosebumps. And one day, my logic was proven all wrong because the tide came in and gave me a sail. This is, again, the syrupy greeting cardness of it all, but whatever. And he goes, and now here I am. I'm back. I'm in Memphis talking to you. I have ice in my glass and I've lost her all over again. I'm so sad that I don't have Kelly, but I'm so grateful that she was with me on that island. And I know what I have to do now. I got to keep breathing because tomorrow the sun will rise. Who knows what the tide could bring? I love that message, man. You got to keep showing up. You got to keep writing dreams down in your journal, because if there's nothing else, like show up and like live and just do whatever you can that's within your power. At that time, what was in my power? Writing in this friggin' journal. So that's what I did. I wrote in this journal. I wrote all my dreams down in it, what I was hoping, what I was envisioning. No way that I could possibly ever pull it off. I didn't have a job, let alone a job that could afford me the resources to do what I wanted to do. I was stranded. It's an odd thing to tie into this writing, but I keep checking to see what the tide might bring, all while pouring my dreams into this notebook. I literally just said that. From June 2020 to October 2022, I applied. This is not an exaggeration. This is absolutely fact. I applied to 1,200 jobs between Indeed and LinkedIn. It was 1,200 jobs. A fraction of those jobs responded. A fraction of those led to interviews, and a fraction of those led to those demoralizing post-interview audition round carrot dangles until Friday, October 21st, 2022, when my current employer reached out to schedule a 30-minute Zoom pre-screening call. It took a few more months, but that call eventually led to a dormant of those handcuffs. I was glad to be reshackled, and I looked forward to the challenge of the work I would be doing. So I couldn't even really I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be making a movie anytime soon, but I got to focus. I got to make sure that I'm good at this new job that I'm doing. And I'm just going to keep writing in my notebook. It was meaningful work for a meaningful organization that made the world a better place. It made the process that much easier to stomach. I'm so grateful for this job. And I'm even more grateful that I didn't listen to the various outside voices telling me to go work at Trader Joe's, UPS, or even go back to restaurants. Because I had people in my life who were like, stop trying. That's what I was told. Stop trying. Like, maybe it'll happen for you someday. I'm just talking about just finding a job that maybe is more meaningful than what I had been doing, in some way, shape, or form. Stop reaching for higher standards is what I was essentially the message that was being communicated to me, and listen, there's nothing wrong with any of these vocations, Trader Joe's, UPS, or restaurants. But in the same way that none of them are beneath me, so too did I want to reach for something more. Just because something's not beneath me, does that mean that I shouldn't try and reach for more? Because all I've ever done is jobs that weren't beneath me. I know how to friggin' put, dishes in a bus bucket. I know how to mop a floor. I know how to, clean out a garbage can, whatever. I know how to run people's food. I know how to take orders, I know that I'm worthy of picking up limp French fries, soggy with ketchup out of a bus bucket shelf by hand at 2 a.m. in the Cheesecake Factory. I know that I'm worthy of that. But is it possible that I could also be worthy of more than that? Is it okay to try? Is it okay to try when time is running out? Yeah, it's friggin' okay. Yeah, it's totally fine. That notebook of dreams didn't disappear as I onboarded to my shiny new job. In fact, its importance intensified. It was a dire reminder that in this lifeline job, I was playing a part. That work did not define me. Okay. So even though I appreciated the work I was doing, and even though it was important work and I valued what I was doing and everything, in that kind of sense, I was still just playing a part. I was like, okay, this is who you have to be in order to maybe someday take the dreams you're putting in this book. Because you could be anybody. Anybody could dream and then put something into a book. You don't have any pre-qualification other than the fact that you have a mind that can think and that you have a dream and that you want to go out and do something. Okay. So the notebook of dreams didn't disappear. It was a dire reminder that in this lifeline job, I was playing a part. That work did not define me. The notebook of my cinematic dreams did. And that made it easier to compartmentalize in my new role at this organization. There were benefits, there were perks. I had money coming in, nearly a third more than my previous salaried desk job, where I was fired via COVID layoffs and PP loan forgiveness cutoffs. So here's some more pages inside of the book, and you can see this is just design. And what's amazing is how, that radio, I have that radio. I made that radio. I ordered it off of Amazon, but I found a radio that looked just like that. So I thought up this radio, I put it in the book, and I dreamed that someday I would have this radio as the prop in my movie. And you know what? That's exactly what is in my movie. it was manifested. I decided that he lived in a trailer, so I designed a trailer, what a trailer should look like, some prop lists. Now that I had money coming in, it was time to save money, including those YouTube and Patreon funds, as I figured out my next moves, which turned out to be taking the story I had plotted out and writing a screenplay. It poured out effortlessly. The troubled and turbulent births of my previous films, Romeo's Distress and Gouge Away, the troubled and turbulent births of my previous films, Romeo's Distress and Gouge Away, became the impetus to do an audio play. Okay, I did an audio play of the first draft via live streaming YouTube stream. In that way, the original vision would be preserved no matter what happened. It was a marvelous way to watch the dreams in my head turn into words spoken by others as I listened to the picture they painted as they spoke. The next step would be to shoot the film itself. So here is me. I'm trying to cast the My Shadow play, and there's Jack. Jack would stars in My Shadow, and here is the here it is. Here is us doing the thing. Oh man, I put the wrong video in the thing. Whoops, we got to fix that. The other side of the valley, sorry. So the next step would be to shoot the film itself. The other side of that valley of uncertainty had been reached with new purpose to climb another mountain, even more ambitious than the previous ones. Despite that former experience, I still didn't know how to take the first step. I sat on the fence for over a year before taking the dive. More projects followed in the interim. That's when I made Kuyashi Gonzo, Blood Visions of Chaos Magic. All the while, My Shadow lingered in the back of my mind. Its logistics were a puzzle waiting to be solved. It had to involve establishing a foundation by shooting approximately 65 pages of the protagonist's trailer interior. A set location was needed. It was needed for a duration longer than any other I had previously attempted in filmmaking, as well as a hired camera and sound to go with it. That was a lot of money, perhaps more than I had managed to save up to that point. This is an epiphany. Robert lives in a trailer. That's when I knew that was the location I was looking for, because before it was a house, I didn't know. So it was like, since so many of the pages take place in this one location, the way to start the movie is to film all of those pages and hopefully do it all together, to keep the momentum going. It was something I've never done before. I always just shoot one day at a time. I shoot a day per month. I get my bananas together. I shoot. I'm exhausted, and then I regroup and I set up the next one. And this is the first time that I was like, no, I've got seven vacation days, and I'm bundling them together, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. After exploring many options, it was looking like the only solution would be Airbnb, a costly one. And so I hemmed and hawed, circling the same spot over and over. I needed to start somehow, and I knew what it took to do it. Waiting for another solution to present itself, only to remember that I needed to start somehow. There were storm clouds of worry, but mild in nature. Perhaps I was merely afraid to plunge in because of the risk factor. The storm clouds began to thunder, and where there is thunder, there too is lightning. Sometimes lightning can strike too late. A good thing this wasn't one of those times, although it almost was. The lightning had struck. It brought clarity as I realized there was a resource that was right under my Roman nose the whole time. The resource was only a resource because of a very specific window of time that was approaching far too soon. So soon that if I hesitated any further, there simply wouldn't be enough time to prepare for the very essential first shooting block. So I had a house, a living room that I could take advantage of and use and shoot in, but I had a window of time to do it. Was the window of time enough to do 65 pages? I was like, shit, I don't know, man. I visited the location, and here's the location. This is Jack, the lead, standing in the location. You can see right here. So I visited the location where I had been many times before, and I steeped in the available window of time I would have to work in the space, I did math on the whole situation. You got to work math on a situation. You work out the math and then you check it and then you run the numbers again and again. And I realized it ticked every box of necessity. There were showers, there was a kitchen, there was privacy, there was we could get good sound. I could block out the windows, but it would all have to be furnished. The money that I didn't spend on that Airbnb went to purchasing all manners of etc. So here's the living room up here. And then as you can see, it's starting to transform. And you can see how happy I am about it. Slowly but surely, the space is taking shape. And we're figuring out, okay, this is what I could do. And so I ordered this stuff off of Amazon. And I put it together. And then I start lighting it. And I'm going, okay, this could work. And then I check it through the camera and then I desaturate to black and white. And I realize, wow, I can do this. This is entirely possible. There is great power in the now. It can be pregnant with opportunity if you can recognize it. And I felt that I had. Now was the time. There might not be another. I put in a request to burn the rest of my vacation time for the fiscal year and cobbled together a 10-day production window. Would it be enough to nail down 65 pages in one location? I didn't know. But you know what I told myself? I said, okay, let's find out. And that's what I did. And I went about my business. Short notice had left me grossly underprepared for the war to come. The math had suggested it wasn't impossible, but there was much pre-production to occur to be ready for that first shooting day. Certain roles hadn't been cast that would be needed for various scenes within those 65 pages. The margin for error was slim to none as I appraised the Amazon Prime delivery time estimates for various items. I was ordering so much stuff off of Amazon and hoping that it would get here in time. So as you can see, here's alligator wine. That's something I made up. I found someone gave me a phone and I decorated it with some chevron powder patterns. And here's the piggy bank before and after. So I bought 2 piggy banks. I broke one. So that way we could just arrange it. And, you just have it break off screen. And there you go. Money and lots of it was being spent. Magically, everything fell into place, piece by piece. Every overwhelming hurdle put up little to no resistance when met head on. So as I was facing these challenges head on, I was able to, negotiate and accomplish them because I was just facing them and bit by bit, we were just eating one elephant. We were eating an elephant one bite at a time. Film production is like an exorcism of the mind in the same way that those intangible dreams were brought into the marble notebook. The writing on those pages was being rehearsed, spoken, and animated before the camera's eye. All these ideas further solidified into a physical form. Frequently, that physical form varies from the written page because of time and money and resources, imagination, and ability, all components of execution. It's never ideal, but that's okay. That's the reality of any no-budget indie. As production continued, I watched in awe as the things that I had dreamed of, jobless and broke, manifested before my very eyes. It was such a wonder. I had been blessed with many gifts in my life, and this was one of the greatest, I think. It really was to have this experience. And see everything come to life. The days were not nightmarishly long, but they were intense. I mean, really intense. Every break, every rest was burning precious, finite time. But it is also the same rest that allows any sort of stamina in an endurance trial such as this. So it's like nothing's going to get done unless I do it, right? Because I was running camera. I did not hire a camera and sound guy. I ended up running camera and sound myself. I had this boom pole thing out and I had the camera set up and that's how I did it. I've done it before and I did it again. And I took on a lot of risk in doing that. It was very foolish to do because there were 65 pages and anything could have gone wrong. And, any slip up would have screwed us. but I measured the risk. I looked at what we had, and we made it work, man. We made it work. And we got through each page, setup by setup, bit by bit. We stayed focused, worked hard, had fun, and completed those 65 pages in 7 days with 5 actors and next to no crew. I spent the next 3 days breaking down and cleaning up the set location, happy and satisfied. However, there's still so much more work to be done. As I slightly alluded to above, I've been here before only to watch everything I prepared and worked for crumble to dust. Anything can happen. Nothing is given. I know that completely. It began with dreaming. So I must continue to dream while building upon this new foundation, ready to take more risks until this film is complete. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So keep dreaming. I'll see you out there in the trenches. What a crazy 10 years it's been. Crazy. I think I have some good stuff to show for it too. And I'm just going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. I'll keep checking to see the sun is rising, and I'll keep looking to see what the tide brings in, and just keep going. So that's it. That's the show. I just wanted to read that. I'll put the link to the article in the comments. 10 years. L'chaim. Here's the 10 more. Okay. Peace. Hair grease. Thanks for coming to the show tonight.